From TPN at Technophilespodcast.com, for Jamon Stark, I'm David Geisler, and this is the Tabletop Test Shop.
When I played back in the day, I mean, sometimes these games could last. It can last a lot longer, and that can change how the RNG factors into the game, too. It's kind of like Settlers of Catan. If you get bad placement at the beginning or bad numbers, you're kind of done.
On this episode, Jamon, Eli, and Dylan play Ikusa, also known as Samauria Swords, with Nathaniel Winter of the Technophiles Newscast. It's time to allocate your koku, because this is the Tabletop Test Shop's third episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I am joined, of course, by my wonderful co-host, Eli. Hello. And my beautiful co-host, Dylan.
Aw, shucks.
I say that because I have to butter him up after everything that I've done to him today. And, of course, we welcome, sorry about that, Nate Winter, who is, for TPN, you're the director of the newscast, as well as sort of one of its guests and hosts.
Yeah, I've hosted a couple times, yeah.
All right. So what do you do all for TPN?
Well, mostly I edit, do videos for the newscast, kind of like the sister show to the Technophiles podcast. Mm-hmm. So little stories that they can't cover on the grand scheme of the podcast we do.
Well, what kind of stories?
Tech, science stuff related. Some on the scene shoots at places have happened.
All right,
it's cool.
Any projects or anything that are coming up right now, or?
Well, there might be a maker. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but there might be like a hacker fair type thing. We went to it in New York. We had somebody in New York who went to it, and there might be some video of it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, today we played and are going to be discussing a game called Samauria Swords. Now, Dylan is the one who brought this to our attention. So, Dylan, why don't you give us a little information about the game?
Well, Samauria Swords, or Shogun, or Ikusa, as it's lovingly known, I guess, has a bit of an identity crisis. In 1986, it started out as Shogun, and then they found another game that was called Shogun, so they changed it to Samauria Swords. Found that there was another game named that. And finally, we played this, and it's a Risk-style game, so it's an army and troop management sort of game. Mm-hmm. In a very, very similar style vein. I mean, if you want to go Axis and Allies, that same sort of an idea. Set in feudal Japan, 16th century, and you're basically vying for control of Japan. And that's basically the gist of it, I guess.
All right, and how do the rules play out?
So today I'm going to talk about the basic tenets of the game Samauria Swords. Samauria Swords is a game based on troop movement and placement similar to Axis and Allies and Risk. You have your spearmen, swordsmen, bowmen, gunners, and they all fit into these armies under these flags, and they can also go on provinces that are marked on cards that are dealt out at the beginning of the game. In Samauria Swords, based on how many province cards you have, how many provinces that you own, you have koku that get distributed, one for every 3 provinces. Koku are your currency to purchase more objects. In Samauria Swords, you can purchase several things. You can purchase fortifications, you can purchase army men, you can purchase a ninja, you can even purchase a samurai sword. Similar to Risk and Axis and Allies, you roll dice to destroy your enemies. The final objective in Samauria Swords is to take either 35 province cards or destroy all 3 of one opponent's generals. And that's how you play Samauria Swords.
Thank you very much for that, Dylan. Now, I just have a few questions. Now, you said that this is the 1995 version, correct?
Correct, yeah. This is the 1995 printing known as Samauria Swords.
Okay. Now, is this is a game, I think we talked about this before, something that you played in your childhood? Like, is this something, like, how old were you when you first played this?
So, I'm going to say I was probably, like, 12 years old, so that would have put it at, like, 1999, 1998, somewhere around there is when I first played it, and always played it with the neighborhood kids and their dad, who would just destroy our lives. Not too dissimilarly to somebody I know, but...
Yeah, so for any of you watching, you may notice that there's at the moment just the slightest bit of tension going on, and that is because of the fact that, much like in any other Risk game, I I may have betrayed someone near and dear to me, namely Dylan, who I feel as though I just tore into his 12-year-old self, who is tied to this game.
Yeah, I was a sweet summer child before this experience.
And so I promise you that once we are done with this, I will be committing seppuku. But until then, why don't we all discuss whether or not we enjoyed this game? And so let's start with our guest.
I mean, I guess if I have to say it quickly, yes, I enjoyed playing the game with you. I enjoy Risk in general. I really like a Lord of the Rings version of Risk. And this was nothing like that for me. There were rules that I didn't quite understand going in. I felt like that. I mean, I would play it again. Okay. Don't get me wrong. And knowing the rules better, I probably would enjoy it more a second go.
Yeah. Eli?
I didn't love it, and I would say that I probably wouldn't play it again. But that's because I don't really like Risk-style games, I guess. Yeah. And this one in the beginning, it just seemed a little slow moving for me.
Yeah. I mean, Dylan.
So
does it still hold up to your childhood sort of remembrance of it?
It does, only because that same burn that I had as a child. So I mean, honestly, that criticism is completely warranted. I feel for somebody that doesn't enjoy these war style games, it is slow. It does take a while to really get into the grind of the game. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy that. So it's I still love it. So that's
for me. It wasn't a love. I liked it, but there's we can get into that more as kind of we have our discussion as to the reasons why. But I'll just say that for me it was a like. And if you enjoy games like Risk, if Risk is your kind of game, I would definitely say it would probably be more along the lines of a love. I personally am more of a grand strategy kind of person rather than just sort of this kind of strategy. But that's just sort of like Eli, that's just sort of my own personal preference. So let's start out, first of all, with the setup. Now, it wasn't a terribly complex setup. Would you agree, Dylan? Or
well, so and it was partially my fault. I haven't played in a long time, so the setup in itself is no more difficult than your basic Risk game. You get your provinces, you distribute them, you put your troops out, and that's all pretty straightforward. It's just remembering kind of what are the intricacies of the rule set. But other than that, pretty straightforward.
No, Nate. Going into this game, what were, especially in setup and when we were sort of stepping into it, because I know you've mentioned that there were some things as we were playing that you wish you had understood at a later point. What were some of the things that going into it you had expectations of that later may have not played out?
I don't know. I think going into the game, I mostly just wanted to play with the little pieces. That was the most fun part for me. But that's the same for every game I play.
Well, yeah.
So, like Catan, I'm just making little houses and stuff. I don't know.
Putting your armies together in nice little rows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. That totally divulged from, or got away from your question.
That's all right.
And so I forgot what your question was.
Oh, the question is going into it, what expectations did you have that sort of changed or altered as you played the game?
I kind of thought that there would be more units. I think there was maybe 3 or 4.
Variety?
Yeah, I don't know. I knew going into it that there was more than Risk. It was not just a numbers game.
Type of piece, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought there was going to be more than that.
All right, Eli?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
Going into it?
Well, what were your expectations sort of going in that...
It was overwhelming for me when all of the pieces were initially laid out, when we took all our initial provinces and then added our, 2-second swordsman or whatever. So all the pieces are on the board, and we were just about to play. And I'm like, good lord, that's a lot. And it was pretty overwhelming for me at first.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is in the initial setup, it's not like most games where you'll start out at specific areas and everyone sort of starts out in different ways. It kind of feels more into Risk and things like that, where it's just you're basically given at the start these random cards, and I kind of feel like, in a way, if you have a bad draw of those, you're just going to be in a terrible position. If you're all across the board, it's going to be very difficult for you to consolidate. And if that happens, it's more than likely that somebody else is going to have one consolidated section that they can utilize. Now, me and Dylan pretty much started out with some good consolidation, but also consolidation right next to one another. Where I feel like you two, especially you, Nate, were all over the board.
Yeah.
I
was all on the outside of the board.
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed you were having trouble finding your center of power to sort of grow from. It was kind of all over in different spots.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's sort of a matter of the RNG or of strategy that kind of...
I felt like since you and Dylan kind of like teamed up in a way that Eli and I probably should have, and we suggested to each other that we did that, and we never really did. Like, I felt like we could have found those spaces too.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a different part of the game.
Okay.
I guess it's a mechanic that gets like, you can even it out as long as you play it well.
All right, so initially going into this game, like you said, myself and Dylan had an alliance. We talked it out. We divided lines. We decided exactly where we could move to. We even occasionally traded off a few provinces and things like that. And things went smoothly. So in that beginning time, so that's me and Dylan. Sorry, Eli though. I want to know what was your initial strategy, from the beginning. What were you going in with? What were you trying to accomplish?
Well, I thought that Nate and I would have some kind of alliance. He kind of went rogue.
Just so you know, it turns out that's not such a great thing after all.
Well, yeah, in the end. But
it ends in sadness.
Yeah. So I didn't have to experience that at least. But I don't know. We should have talked more about our plan because he went all over.
I went into it thinking it was going to be a silent strategy, but then they just went like, okay, we're on a team now, right? Yeah, I was like, well, but I thought we were going to be sneaky about it.
I guess that's what it was. Is I thought we'd try to be sneaky about it too, and then. Well, there was no communication, so it didn't really work out.
It is definitely a game that if you're going to ally, you have to have communication.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it doesn't seem like the kind of game where you could just sort of assume each other's doing things.
Yeah,
just because of somebody could attack somewhere that you weren't and that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of stuff that we noticed early on where you could kind of manipulate some of the numbers. Like giving provinces over to you allowed you to level up stuff.
Yeah.
And sort of allowed us to level up more quickly without really any risk. So to that and to some of these rules within the game, and we're discussing a 1995 game, so compared to some of the stuff we have now.
Well, 1986 is when the original came out. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, Dylan, more modern games that you've played, how do you compare this, especially sort of early strategies and some of the things that we were able to manipulate, to sort of some of the more modern games that have come out? Do you think it still holds up, or do you think it sort of falls apart in relation to them, or somewhere in between?
Well, I mean, so I feel that if everybody was on a level playing ground, like Eli doesn't like these kind of games, so she's not really maybe accustomed to it. Nate likes stacking pieces apparently.
Fair.
No, but so I mean, there's always going to be an element of RNG, especially when you're dealing out cards for provinces and stuff like that. So it does have its weaknesses there, but I do feel that the other thing is that when I played back in the day, I mean, sometimes these games could last a long, depending
we know
on
that.
how you choose to play, and it can last a lot longer, and that can change how the RNG factors into the game too. But like you say, it's kind of like Settlers of Catan. If you get bad placement at the beginning or bad numbers, you're kind of done for the rest of the game. Similar, if you get really bad province cards here in Samurai Swords, you could well be out of it almost before the game starts. I do think that is a weakness.
But even moving onwards, does it feel like, because there's a level up mechanic for each of your different armies, and so really all you have to do in the very beginning is go after even if we're not working together, is just go after those provinces that have one person, level them up quickly, and then boom, you're just making like 3 attacks in a row, and things like that are happening. Yeah. Does that mechanic, I guess, especially that one, does that feel like a good mechanic? Or because I don't know, I feel like it's not a strong mechanic of the game, that it's something that's too easily manipulated.
Well, and so I feel like the game balances well because it has the ninja aspect. Again, if you remember, so the ninja. So if you get a really powerful army, you can send the ninja to assassinate and knock down their experience. So there are some checks and balances. I guess the one problem with the ninja is that if 2 people bid on it and bid the same amount, they both might really want it, but then you can't use it. They might even want to do
Right.
the same thing for men.
Yeah, well, and the thing, Eli actually grabbed the ninja a few times, like in the very beginning of the game, and that was sort of an early thing. I was curious as to, and sort of we'll move a little bit more into mid-game now, why it is that as things kind of move forward, that like it's almost like the ninja was no longer on your radar anymore.
I just forgot about it.
Oh,
to
really?
be quite honest. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had told, so I planned on using the ninja a lot, and then just like assassinating everyone's.
Was it because like when you tried to assassinate me, it turned around on you, or
No, because I got Dylan the second time.
Yeah.
I just
It doesn't seem that useful in like the mid or early game.
well, yeah, because then when I used it against Dylan, all it did is like,
Well, yeah.
and he was able to get his
I promoted my guy right away. Well,
yeah.
it was a mistake of when you.
Well, and I
could've played
didn't play
earlier
it.
in
Yeah, I
the
didn't
turn,
play it at the right time either.
but it
and-
was a matter of forgetting about it again because it's just this one piece that's off in the middle of
And
nowhere.
I think I forgot about it because at that time it didn't make that much of a difference when I
Yeah.
used it against Dylan.
yeah, very
And
true.
And I think it would have made a difference further along when your army's got more experience, because then it would go back down to 1. But I just forgot about it.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Well, and if I recall, Jamon, at the end of the game, you had a similar instance where you just forgot
I
that
actually
you had him.
got the ninja and just didn't use it,
Yeah.
and it could have changed things. But actually, like thinking about it, could have actually made things worse for me in the long run.
Right.
But actually, we'll talk more about the end game after this message. We're back, and we're continuing our discussion about samurai swords. Now, we're going to now talk about the end game, which kind of shifted as really our two sides, our two alliances kind of crashed up against one another. Now, we had sort of been picking away at each other and things like that had been happening, but I think the biggest switchover was when Eli basically came in and took out one of Dylan's armies. So talk about that. Because it seemed like at the near the end, like things for you had shifted. Like you had figured out how to consolidate your power. You had been moving more forward. So
Well, and I realized that Nate wouldn't be
helpful at all.
yeah, I watched you eating up his empire, just being like, well, if you're not going to do anything, I'm taking this.
yeah. So I
While
didn't have to-
protecting one of his armies so that he couldn't
So I was
lose.
on my own, and so that was easier for me not having to worry what he was doing. But yeah, well, and then at one point you looked at me, you got my attention, and told me that we should team up against Dylan.
Yes, there was that.
And
that
I thought
moment.
he was getting a little too cocky, so I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, he was.
I was.
I mean, to be fair, he was like standing up and just
Yeah,
giving.
well, no, and he-
There was so much shade. There was just like.
I was.
And he said, "It's nice seeing everybody." Like,
Well, I had.
As if he was gonna destroy us
I never
all.
remember getting that many. I was rolling.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, there was that, and then you took out the army.
which I wouldn't have done if I didn't
Right.
know that
And-
you were gonna
Well, that's the
be
thing.
on my side.
Oh, so.
And in truth, I never would have betrayed him if you hadn't. Because the thing is I needed to, like, if you taking that out, I knew then I could easily weaken him. Because at that point, it was like, all right, now we can remove 2 armies. He's down to 1, and we basically like, we wipe him out.
Yeah.
Um,
and that was exciting. That was
Yeah.
my favorite. Obviously, my favorite part of the game was our armies battling. And that made the game a lot more exciting.
I will be honest with you. If you had lost that, I would not have attacked him.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't. He'd be too powerful at that point. If I'd done it, it would have put me in a
If it weren't for
worse
me, you
position.
wouldn't have won. Again.
Again.
You owe me a lot, Jamon. You owe me a lot.
Well, the thing is to be perfectly honest, I did not expect I'd be in a position to take out his final army. I thought that would be you that would be doing so, because he had sort of this under area that he
Going
could very
around that
easily
way.
move in on you.
Yeah, yeah.
But he got really mad at my betrayal, which I don't blame him for at all. And honestly, it was the most dishonorable thing that could ever happen, which thus the seppuku later on. But it was one of those things where I sat there watching that fight and knowing that everything in the game hinged on that one moment.
Yeah.
And I don't think you realize how much it hinged on.
No, I think I knew.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was funny because Dylan didn't know at this point that Jamon was going to betray him.
Like
and at one point, he's like, "Go, Eli! I mean, Go both of you. I was like, oh, you kind of gave it away at that point.
You should have seen the signs.
Well, I chose to trust and have faith in. It was a tactical error on my part, and I just was partially hubris, but I thought we had us rock solid. I thought we were buds, man.
I know, and I feel terrible about my betrayal. I honestly do. Like, as I was doing it, I kind of was like, because basically I took out one of his armies, and then he went on a rampage, and I moved in on the last one, which basically led to me being able to take, because in this game, I take your provinces. Yeah, so, which I will be honest, I feel is kind of, it's again, one of the reasons why I not love this game, because Eli really... If it had just been that your provinces go into nothing and that everything wipes out, Eli would have won that game. And the only reason I won is because I was able to take yours. And I kind of feel like, in a way, that's not really an earned win. Yeah,
that's too much. You're gaining too much.
Right.
From that.
I think the game would have played. I mean, I had bloodlust at the end there. I was attacking everything just to prove a point.
The funny thing is when I attacked you at the end, I didn't even know I got your provinces, and you looked at me and like, no, Jim, and if you do this, you win.
Yeah.
And I went, oh.
Well, and that's the thing, because we both had an equal part in bringing Dylan down, but you got the win still for it.
Right, and that's why I just it feels a little bit skewed in that regard. It's almost like if I had only one army left and say like both of us had an army left, but you had this huge area and I wiped in and took you out, I'd win. Even though like I'm just this like I have like 5 provinces or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the usual way it plays out though is I would never have had that huge tract of land because
True.
I would have been slowly losing because I was down to one army within 3 turns. You guys would have pecked away at me. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't gone on that rampage, if I had gone back and consolidated, the game would have played out differently.
Very true. I mean, the thing is at the end, Nate could have won.
He could have won the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I had a big stronghold, guys. One more turn.
Well, no. The thing is the only reason I won over you is because I was going before you, but I think you were in a position where you could have moved in on his army. And if you had been able to, because you had enough to have, I think, the 2 or the 3 for attacks.
Yeah, I had 2. Yeah.
Right, and you had it in a position where you could have basically come down, attack, and then attacked his army.
Yeah.
And the only reason why and that's what I mean, is someone who's got this tiny little place and is in that loss still has that chance for a huge win, an upset. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And once again, I will point out, I feel like I am nitpicking a bit, but it is one of those things that turns it from a like to a love, and I feel it's an older form of that old kind of strategy form as opposed to sort of the modern strategy, and that sort of thing. All right, so late game, Nate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, were there a lot of things for you to do at that point, or do you feel like you were kind of stuck in a cage?
No. Well, I feel like in the beginning of the game, I lost a general or daimyo really quick, and then I was just like, I've got to cower and like hide for a little bit and build up. And building up doesn't help at all because you never build up enough. Everybody else takes more stuff than you, and you can never catch up. I felt like.
It almost feels like you have to maintain some momentum.
Yeah.
Of some kind.
Yeah.
But all right. So really quick though, I mean, I think, does anybody have anything about the game? I know I've already pointed out some, but does anybody have some things about this that maybe they didn't like as much, or reasons not to like it, or do you think it's still a good game? Let's start with Eli.
No, I think I would agree with you, what you said earlier about how, like I said too, like I had an equal part in taking Dylan down, but you still won.
Yeah.
Because you gained all his provinces.
Even though, because I had like 13 provinces and you had something like 20 something.
Yeah, I had way more.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not way more, but more than you. And so I think that's like a huge part of the game that I, didn't like. A weakness.
Nate?
I think I would give it another go.
Yeah.
And I would probably appreciate it better a second round. But it's not like a game that I would seek out to play again,
And Dylan, I'm going to give you the final word before we go into our shells on this game. Mm-hmm. Anything positive or negative you want to say about it? Or negative you want to say about me?
Well, I'll keep my own negative thoughts.
We'll keep it civil.
From that perspective, never trust anybody. That's my word of advice. No, so the game, if if your Axis and Allies, your Risk, if those, like I said, if those aren't your style of game, and then this is maybe not for you. It's not in your wheelhouse. But if you enjoy, and usually this game, like I said, can take a long period of time, and depending on how people play and how cutthroat people are, and and not only that, I wasn't. If I had been playing with my friends that I played with and their dad, there would be no alliances. It would be the Cold War.
Yeah.
It was just so. But
well, I think when we play this again, it's going to be the Cold War. I don't think you're ever going to have an alliance in this game or any other game again with me.
No, that's right. No.
Yeah. And we will be playing this game again this coming Friday.
Okay.
And I do look forward to it. Even though I didn't love the game, I still liked it. So I'm looking forward to doing it again, although I'm looking forward to the idea that basically the three of you are probably just going to decimate me and then carry on.
Take care of Jamon, and
then we can continue the game. But yeah, so let's talk about our shelves. So what we do, Nate, here is we actually have bookshelves, but I know that since you have been doing that with us, where would you rate this in your personal bookshelf of like board games, and compare it to any, like, what's your favorite board game?
I would say Dominion. Does that count? I mean,
yeah.
That's probably my favorite board game. This is nowhere near that for me. Like, there's not a lot of replay here for me. So it's maybe not even on my shelf. Oh. I just have too many expansions of Dominion for anything else on my shelf. Yeah.
All right. And how about you, Dylan?
Well, so for me, like I say, I'm a little softy for this game. It's got a lot of nostalgic value for me. So it's not Alien Frontiers good. That's a good game. That's a real good game. Mm-hmm. But I'm not as big a fan of Sentinels of the Multiverse. So it fits, I would say, squarely in between those two.
Okay.
I would say it is right below Sentinels of the Multiverse. So at this point, it's in last place.
That's right.
And I actually follow through with Eli as well. And that could change. Like when we're at the end of our season, that might actually change based off of second plays but I'm kind of it's barely, because it's Sentinels is one of those things that if it might get better. I don't know yet, but we'll see. So we'll see. But I'm putting it unfortunately right below there. So, if you would like to watch us play this game, we're going to be playing this Thursday on our Twitch, which you can find in the description below, or we'll have it right around here somewhere or over there. And where can we find everybody at? So if anybody wants to follow us or have more information about us. Eli?
I'm on Twitter at Endearing Creep.
And I am at Zazu2006.
Nate?
You can find me on Twitter at OKnowsMe.
All right, and I am on Twitter at Jamon Stark. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I am going to go off, find a nice sword, and repay my debt of honor to Dylan.
As is